Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of a very surprising and very interesting little knife. This little guy right here. This is the North Arm Knives Skaha. Now first off though, I want to thank my buddy Mike for sending this little guy along. This was a knife that's been on my radar as kind of, that looks interesting for years, well not years, but for what felt like a long time. And he finally was about to sell his, sent it my way first, and thank you very much Mike for that. Next thing, size comparison. Right here, of course, your Spyderco Delica, your Ontario Rat number 2, and Rat number 1. There you go. So you see blade length-wise, right in Rat 1 department. A similar Canadian knife. This right here is your Grimsmo Rask, although a little bit further up the pay scale, so to speak. And in terms of your blade machining, you see the Grimsmo Norseman here. They've both got a CNC-style layered blade, which is pretty neat. So that's good. The name on this guy, Skaha, is actually apparently a lake in British Columbia. And North Arm Knives is a family business run by some folks up in British Columbia, a father and a son. They've got a YouTube channel, which is actually kind of nice and kind of neat to see. Very earnest, that kind of thing. So that's neat. But let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of your North Arm Knives Skaha here. Okay, so on the good side, and by the way, sorry, a little bit of eczema, a little ugly. But first off, on the good side, this is the oldest knife in my collection by far. See? It was made in BC. Okay, that actually stands for British Columbia. The knife was actually made in 2017, but, you know, hey, what can I say? I gotta make the crappy joke. Second thing, I am a fan of the CNC pattern here. This is nice, both attractiveness-wise, especially given the polish here, and in terms of, I don't know, I like the effect of it. And the other thing I like about it is a little bit more meta, but I love the fact that the CNC blade grind here puts the CNC-ness of the knife kind of front and center, because I'm a firm believer that the fact that a knife is made by a computer numerical controlled mill CNC is not a demerit on it. I think they can make incredible knives. Some of my favorite knives are CNC done. But putting this finish on there makes it abundantly clear to the world that, you know what, this is a CNC knife. And that's just okay. No problem there. I mean, maybe it minutely affects resistance when cutting into, like, a very sticky cheese of some variety, but I've not found that to be an important issue on my Norseman, and so I doubt it will be here. And it does look really neat, so I love that CNC pattern 100%. Next thing, this is a very, very lightweight knife, and that is because it has G10 only construction. This half of the knife, the top half, is entirely G10, excepting the washer that the bearings ride on, and then the bottom half here, it's mostly G10, except for a lock bar that goes from right here up to the clip here. You can see that in disassembly more clearly, but as a result, this knife comes in at 3.06 ounces, which is pretty great. That's less than an ounce per inch. Using our little blade length monitor here, yeah, we're coming in almost 3.5 inches, 3 ounces. That's really pretty excellent. And I gotta say that even despite the fact that it's all G10, it feels pretty secure. There's no pinching, you know. Maybe I'm deforming it slightly, but not in a meaningful sense, and the lockup is solid. This is a very nice knife, and it's very light, so that's good. Next thing, this is a little detail, but it's something I appreciated very much when I noticed. Check this out. So here's your lock bar. On the lock bar, you've got this top surface here, and then you've got this second facet over here, and that's where your finger presses, and then you've got this little notch right down here, and that little notch just serves to remove one specific corner, which could otherwise be poking into your finger as you're doing this. That is really, really detail-oriented thinking, and as you guys know, detail-oriented thinking is a very good way to my heart. And so I loved seeing that. That's just one of those things like, okay, not only are these guys making the knives, but they're thinking them through, and that's beautiful. That's great. Next thing, the color on this guy is beige. Tan, I think, is the term they use for it. Not the most interesting color on God's green earth, but the thing is you can buy this knife in a bunch of other G10 colors. So you can get yellow and purple and tan and black and deep red, hunter orange, OD green. Look, it's not a huge deal. It's not, you know, oh my God, I can't get it in purple. What's wrong here? But the thing is, it can be really nice to do that. And especially because this knife is in the kind of price range where gifting it is not completely out of line, being able to get something that's much more personalized is kind of a neat thing. So I'm a big fan of the fact that even if this knife doesn't start off purple, it can end there. Well, I'm sorry, even if this one is in purple, you can get one in purple. Although I guess you could dye this one. It's pretty die and whatnot. I should make a video about that. Anyways, moving along. Next thing, I love the blade on this guy. Absolutely love the blade on this guy. Partly because it's using relatively thin stock. We compare it to the Spyderco Delica here, and it's about the same stock thickness, with a nice tall grind on it. But it's also using this thin stock, and it's very thin behind the edge. It's very, if we look at the sharpening choil there, we can see it goes down to a pretty acute point there. And couple that with a nice functional blade shape with lots of flat, little bit of belly, a nice point, as well as the steel, which is S35VN, which is one of my very, very favorite steels. And then throw in a great sharpening choil here, and this is a great cutting tool. And I love that. So often modern knives suck at cutting things, and this one doesn't. And so that brings me a great deal of joy and makes me just absolutely love this freaking blade. Then finally, the price on this guy is very, very good. It is $170 in the U.S. It's a little bit more in Canadian dollars because that's the state of the currencies and whatnot. And you're getting an S35VN folder here. And, okay, some of you guys are thinking, well, sure, but you can do that from ZT and get full titanium and things like that. But the thing is, this guy is hiding one very interesting trick up its sleeve, and we'll talk about that in a second here. But for me, at least, this price is actually very, very competitive. So that's the good. The price is competitive. The blade is just great, with a great steel, great grind. You get lots of color choices. You get some nice details, like that little lock bar thing. It's lightweight. The CNC grind is great, and it's kind of cool to have a knife from the BC era. Let's talk about what's great here, because holy crap. So what's great to me and what absolutely caught me off guard here is that this knife has an action that is as good as any folding knife I have ever handled. And I mean that seriously, and I am an action snob, 100%. The thing is, this knife runs on bearings, which is not super unusual, but they're just kind of off-the-shelf steel bearings. But the thing is, it's done in such a way that the action is damn near perfect. Actually, it's probably as close to perfect as you need to get, because the detent is done incredibly well. When you press the tab, you get a perfectly clean release on the, you add pressure, and then suddenly it just disengages without any hint of, it's just beautiful, it's easy, it's clean, the tent is great. But then the closing, see, I carried this guy for most of my review period before I had actually done the disassembly, because I assumed it was clean as a whistle, because the detent, the action was so great on the deploy. But then I cleaned it out, and I got rid of a little bit of residual gunk on the detent ball path, and then suddenly this knife went from being a, encourage it shut to a finger guillotine drop shutty sort of knife. And that's just incredible. And this knife, I am dead serious when I say that this knife is in the exact same class as the Grimsmo Norseman here, the Rask, any of the Thorburn knives out there in the world, although they've got a very different feeling to them because they're IKBS. This knife has an incredible action. These two random jackasses in British Columbia have made a knife with an action that can rival any knife in the world. And, we're kind of at the point where is it better than the Norseman and the Rask? I just don't know. It's kind of deeply personal at that point. But no matter what, the action is off the charts here. And at this price point, for $170, that is insane. Now, I will fully acknowledge I've handled one of these. I hope that they're consistent and that they're all this good. I didn't just get lucky here. But if they are consistent, this means you can now basically own a knife with that kind of a high-end action for low-end prices, and that's just great. And so for me, the action on this knife absolutely floored me and is just really, really great. Let's talk about what's bad. Okay, so first off, some nitpicks. This is an all G10 knife. For me, that's A-okay. G10 is actually a very strong material, much more so than I gave it credit for early in my reviewing career, I'll freely admit, but they've done everything right for this to be all G10. They have bearings, washers that the bearings sit on top of. The lock bar clip sort of thing is very nice, not only because it's secured to the clip, but also because it's secured within the G10. And the lockup on it is absolutely solid. There's no play, there's no flex. It's a fine knife. I got no issue with it, but it won't be God's gift to hard use. If you're planning to throw this guy out of airplanes and whatnot, don't do that. That's really dangerous. But, so keep that in mind. Next thing, this is a light switch only flipper. What I mean by that is some flippers you can press straight down to fire them, some you pull back. This one really only pulls back. You can press straight down, but it's really, really unpleasant on the finger. We'll talk about that in a bit there, but yeah, it's not a great thing if you're a big devotee of push-button flipping. Next nitpick is that there is only one clip position here. Because the lock bar attaches to the clip can only be in this right side tip-up configuration. Given, at least to me, right side tip-up is the correct answer, so no biggie, but sorry lefties. And the clip itself is actually, while we're talking about it, just a little bit tight with not a whole lot of ramp up, or not a whole lot of height above there. So I'm very curious how this is going to work once I start wearing thicker pants. But hey, whatever. Then, not saying like in fashion, but in terms of summer, like, you know, I don't know, maybe yoga pants will go out of style. Who knows? Anyways, sorry guys. I should stop. Anyways, the next thing is I'm not a huge fan of the branding on the clip. Not the clip, on the blade itself. You can see here that it's got this big old North Arm logo, and more specifically that the logo is actually milled into the blade itself and is milled with some depth. And although it certainly makes it visually striking, and they've got a big logo, so I don't know that it would fit down here in a corner, it is a little bit unpleasant because it will capture crap as you're cutting through things. And so I'm not a big fan of the depth of that logo. I kind of wish that they would dial that back just a little bit to the point where it's still legible, but a little, and maybe make it a little smaller for that matter. Not a huge deal, but it is something that bothers me. On to some more substantial complaints here. I am not a huge fan of the fact that the disassembly does require a little bit of prying. Generally, I like a knife that's mostly held together by the fasteners, whereas in this case, I did need to use a pry tool to pop these apart, and that's what they advocate in their disassembly video. I gotta give them credit for having a disassembly video, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. But I would much prefer if this knife did not require any prying at all to take apart and just kind of fell apart like the other ones when you take the screw off. But there's something to be said for it, so it's not a huge deal. Next thing, unfortunately, there is one hot spot, and that's off the clip here. Ergonomically speaking, when this is in your hand, this little upturned corner here can be a little bit of a hot spot, and so I'm hoping that they could reshape this clip a little bit to reduce that. A little bit of pain when you really bear down. And then finally, actually not quite finally, there are two other remaining issues here. One is that there is a little bit of blade shake when the knife is closed. That's what you're hearing there is the sound of the blade rocking back and forth here. I'll use the flipper tab to kind of show it off. You can see that the blade is rocking back and forth on the detent ball. Is this actually a problem? No, not at all. This is not a functional issue in any sense of the word. And in fact, you've now got a tactical maraca in your pocket in case you need to keep time with the flamenco band or something. Does flamenco use? No, they use castanets. I don't know. Whatever. But you've got the blade shake thing. Hopefully they're going to address that. I think they probably will at some point. And then finally, the thing that annoys me most about this knife is the pocket packer. This guy has a substantial flipper tab that's sticking way out there and is seriously under-chamfered. You can see here that it's pretty much, although they've done a little bit of rounding here, it's pretty much 90 degrees on there, and although it works very well for deploying the knife, I'd love to see a little bit more rounding. I'd like to see a little bit more angling. They were very, very conscientious about this bit of chamfering. I'd like to see them apply it down to here in a future version. So, that's the bad here, is that it's got quite the pocket packer in there that's really going to be attacking, especially with this unchamfered corner, whatever else is in your pocket, packing on it all day long. It's got a little bit of blade shake, making it an excellent tactical maraca. I'm not a big fan of the fact that you need some prying to do the disassembly. You get a hot spot off the clip. The branding on the blade is maybe a little big, a little deep. It's light switch only, one clip position, and it is all G10. In terms of your ugly, honestly, there's nothing really here. Maybe the pocket packer is ugly, but compared to some of the other stuff people are doing out there, it's not all that bad. So that's really the extent of the negative I've got to say about this. So let's just go into your final conclusion, shall we? Look, final conclusions. This knife, this really caught me off guard. You know, I'd seen it around. It had been on my radar casually. Then my buddy Mike said, oh, I'll send you a Skaha to check out before I sell it. My expectations weren't all that high. I mean, small business, family maker. I figured, you know, okay, it's G10. It'll be fine. Maybe a little janky, maybe a little amateurish. And I'll probably end the review with something like, oh, it's a nice first effort. And if they work on X, Y, and Z, they'll have something nice on there. But, oh, my God, was I wrong. I mean, sure, the knife's got a couple of their downsides. They should shrink and round the flipper tab a little bit, because because that's the biggest annoyance by far, and the blade shape should be fixed, 100%. Blade shake, not shape. Shape's good to go, guys. And, some people aren't going to love the fact that it's all G10, and if you don't care as much about the action, you probably won't be as blown away. But the thing is, no matter what, this is a great knife, because it starts off as a great utilitarian little cutting tool. It's got a solid steel, a functional blade, a nice handle, and it's actually made to cut things, which is super rare right now. It's also made by a small business, which is something I absolutely want to support, and a small business who's really trying to get out there and give back to the community, showing off their YouTube stuff. That's great too. But then, completely randomly, out of the blue, this has one of the best folding knife actions in the world. I cannot overstate how much this floored me. I took this out of the package and I flipped it and said, holy, and to the extent where the fiance looked up, thought I'd cut myself or something. The detent is just that good, and then when I put it back together after the cleaning, well, you guys saw that. Oh my God, I am gobsmacked by the action on this. It is like weirdly good. And then the fact that it comes in at a really competitive price on top of that, you're paying low-end ZT money for a high-end custom action. It's great. And so considered all together, this knife is absolutely, completely, and 100% a gem. I mean, so much so that I bought this off of my buddy 2 days after it arrived. For the price he was asking, it wasn't something I was going to let go. And that was before I cleaned it out and realized just how smooth it was. I mean, like I said, this brings me joy. And not only because it's a nice knife, but because these hidden gems are what keep me enthusiastic and joyful about the world of knife making in general. I mean, sure, I'm critical, but nothing makes me happier than an empty, ugly section. And if two guys in a small shop in Canada someplace are doing this for this kind of cheap, then the future of knife making is just bright indeed. And so if you're wanting a nice, lightweight, utilitarian folder, or if you want to experience a top-of-the-line folding knife action on par with anything out there, then this is just an absolutely incredible choice. And I highly recommend this knife. So I hope you enjoyed this review, that it gave you a Skaha moment. That was terrible. But mostly I hope that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.